The mud is cool against her calves, cooler than the air above the paddy. With each lifted foot, the wet earth holds and releases with a small sound. She balances a single rice seedling above the water, vertical between two fingers. The weight on her back shifts as she leans forward. The gray light is not yet a sunrise. This is a Yayoi rice farmer in northern Kyushu in the late summer of 200 BC. By the time the sun sets, 20,000 seedlings will be transplanted by hand. A delegation will leave the village carrying iron and bronze as gifts. She will fall asleep before the moon rises. Everything you have been told about this day is incomplete. Today, we decode the real one. The northern coast of the island of Kyushu. Today, this is northern Fukuoka in southwestern Japan. Late summer, the 3rd century before the Common Era. For 300 years, wet rice agriculture has been moving east across the Sea of Genkai from the Korean peninsula, one village at a time. Look down on the strait from above. On the western shore, the southern tip of Korea. On the eastern shore, the northern arc of Kyushu. Between them, less than 200 kilometers of water crossed by small wooden boats for generations. Trace the dotted line of those crossings. Then zoom to the alluvial plain near a river mouth and find the geometry of paddies inscribed on the land. The village holds 15 households. Roughly 40 people share 5 plots of flooded fields. Before the paddies arrived, this land belonged to the Jomon, hunter-gatherers who had occupied these islands for more than 10,000 years. The Jomon are still here, in the hills, in the next valley. At the edge of the village stands a small shrine. Inside hang 3 bronze bells, green patinated, the metal imported from across the sea. These are dotaku. 2 centuries from now, Han Chinese historians will write of the people of these islands and call them Wa. And on that plain, in a village that did not exist 3 centuries ago, a woman is already standing knee-deep in water. An infant is tied to her back. The pit house is half sunk into the earth. The hearth at the center holds the embers of last night's fire. She crouches beside it, breaking the crust of ash with a short bamboo stick, and the orange comes back. The infant on her back does not wake. Her older daughter is still asleep on a reed mat against the far wall. The smell of the hearth has been in her hair for years. It is in the hempen weave of her tunic, in the seams of the reed mat, in the thatch above her head. When she leans toward the fire, the smoke rises into the smell of her own scalp, and they become the same thing. Breakfast is a clay pot of millet boiled with the last of yesterday's barley. She eats it standing with 2 fingers from the rim. There is a single pickled plum in the bottom of the pot. She gives it to her daughter when the girl sits up. Outside the pit house, the air carries a different smell. The paddy water has been standing since the snowmelt. By late summer, the water is warm at the surface and slightly fermented at the bottom. The old rice straw is rotting into mud. The smell is sour and green and alive. She has known it every summer of her life. She crosses the village in the gray light. Other women are leaving their pit houses, walking the same path. None of them speak. The infant on her back shifts and settles. By the time the sun clears the bamboo ridge, the second paddy is full of women. The song has started, and a scout from the next valley is running down the slope toward the headman. The transplanting line is 20 women across. Her aunt, by marriage, stands at the head of the row. She is 15 years older. The upper joint of her left index finger is missing from a sickle accident in another summer. She gives a single low call. The women answer with a second note, half a tone lower. The line bends. Each woman holds a fat woven tray at her hip. The seedlings on it were pulled an hour ago from the nursery beds at the village edge. The seedlings are the length of a hand, green and thin and trembling. She takes one between her thumb and her first 2 fingers and pushes it into the mud. 3 fingers spacing to the next. 3 fingers spacing to the row behind. The grid is not measured, it is remembered in the hand. The line moves backward in unison. The water swallows each footprint as it lifts. The buns hold the level at a hand's breadth above the soil. An inflow channel from the upper patty drips a small, steady volume. An outflow channel at the lower corner releases the same. The patty is a machine, calibrated in centimeters, and the women are inside the machine. Her aunt's call comes again. The line answers. The rhythm carries her past the village shrine, past the 3 bronze dotaku hanging green in the shadow. At the mid-morning rest, the scout is speaking quickly to the headman by the edge of the patty. She catches fragments without lifting her head from the tray. Jomon, deer traps, 2 of them gone. The headman calls a council. The women keep transplanting, and by midday, 3 old men of the village are taking iron knives, salt, and a bronze mirror from the storage hut. If you've made it this far, you're going to want to stay for what comes after the council leaves. There's a reveal coming in the last act that's only 10 years old in the scientific literature. It rewrites who the Japanese actually are. Hit subscribe so it lands in your feed. The 3 old men of the village walk single file along the bund of the upper patty. The headman is not among them. He stays at the gate. The lacquered box is small, the size of 2 hands held side by side. The oldest of the 3 carries it at his waist. She is bent at the back in the next patty. She does not stop working. As they pass, the oldest man pauses to adjust the lid of the box, and for one moment, the inside catches the afternoon sun. A disc of polished bronze. The mirror is the width of a man's palm. The light it throws back is whiter than the water. She remembers her husband's father, who died when she was 9. He used to deal with the Jomon traders who came down from the hills in the dry months. He told her once that they always asked first for salt and never for rice. The rice they would not eat. The delegation moves past the shrine. The bronze mirror in the box and the 3 dotaku in the shadow of the shrine are the same metal, brought across the same sea by the same boats. She does not think this. She only sees the men go. A brief shower passes over the patty. She pulls the woven straw rain cape across her shoulders. The cape sheds the water, but holds the smell of wet straw close around her face. The line does not stop. The seedlings keep going into the mud. The delegation disappears around the bend of the hill. The transplanting line moves forward 1 more row. By the time the men return at dusk, the patty will be finished, and the deer traps will be back where they belong. The delegation returns as the light is going. 2 of the old men carry small bundles of folded deer hide. The 3rd carries the lacquered box, the lid now closed. The deer traps will be back at the head of the eastern path before nightfall. The patty is finished. 20,000 seedlings stand in a grid that runs from one bund to the other, each one no taller than a hand, each one 3 fingers from its neighbor. In 90 days, the village will harvest. She sits on the threshold of the pit house with her husband. The infant is finally untied from her back, asleep on a reed mat. Just inside the door, the fish on the clay plate between them is a river trout grilled over coals. The skin is blackened, the flesh is white and breaks apart with the fingers. Barley boiled with the last of the morning's millet. 1 pickled plum split between them. The taste of the fish is smoke and oil, and the iron note of fresh river water. The barley is plain. The plum is sharp. Her older daughter, 4 years old, kneels beside her on the threshold, and holds up a small clay figurine. It is the shape of a person, lopsided, the head larger than the body. The girl has made it during the day. Her mother takes it in one hand and turns it once and gives it back. The husband says almost nothing. The light goes. Decoded 1. She was already talking to China. Here's what you were probably taught. Ancient Japan was an isolated island society, cut off from the mainland until contact with China brought it into the world. That's wrong, and the evidence is in the box she just watched go past. Yayoi period sites in northern Kyushu contain bronze mirrors of Chinese manufacture and dotaku bells of Korean typology. They contain iron tools imported and reworked locally, and Han Dynasty coins. The mirror in the box and the 3 dotaku in the shrine are the same metal brought across the same sea. 2 centuries from now, Han Chinese historians will write the treatise on geography in the Book of Han, and they'll name her people. They aren't discovering an isolated tribe. They're recording a trading partner. She was already on the eastern edge of a continent that knew her name. Decoded 2. The paddy is a machine. Here's what most of us imagine. Rice farming is what happens when foragers who already gather wild rice decide to stay put and plant some. That isn't what wet rice paddy agriculture is. A Yayoi paddy is one of the most engineered systems in the pre-industrial world. The terraces are leveled within centimeters of tolerance. The inflow and outflow channels are calibrated to hold a constant water depth. The transplanting calendar is tied to spring snowmelt in the mountains upstream. The labor is communally synchronized by song, and none of it developed locally. The technology arrived in Kyushu as a complete package 3 centuries before this morning from the Korean peninsula. Paddies, tools, irrigation, rice strains, and the social organization to run them. Compare it to Roman hydraulic engineering at the scale of a village. A different civilization, transplanted whole. Decoded 3. Her grandparents made modern Japan. Here's the one that changed in 2021. Until 5 years ago, the standard story said the Japanese descended from 2 ancient populations. The Jomon hunter-gatherers and the Yayoi farmers blended into one lineage. Then a paper came out. Cook and colleagues, in Science Advances, sequenced ancient genomes spanning 10,000 years of the archipelago. The result reframed everything. Modern Japanese ancestry is layered ancestry, the product of 2 later population waves of migration and admixture. The Yayoi farmers arrived from the Korean peninsula starting around 1000 BC. A third wave came during the Kofun period, around 300 AD. Together, they account for roughly 85% of modern Japanese DNA. The Jomon, who held the islands for more than 10,000 years before, contribute 10 to 15%. A second paper that same year, Roberts in Nature, traced the Japanese language family back through the same migration corridor. The woman in the paddy is a second-generation native of her village. Her grandparents crossed the Sea of Genkai. She isn't a continuation of a Japanese people. She's the grandmother of one. Back to the village. The light is gone now. The husband has banked the fire. The infant is on the reed mat, nursing in sleep. The older daughter is curled at her mother's feet, one hand still closed around the clay figurine she shaped during the day. The figurine sits on the earthen floor near the hearth, small and crooked, the head larger than the body. Outside the pit house, the village shrine stands dark against the slope. The 3 dotaku hang motionless in the air. Their green patina is invisible in the night. The metal is still warm from the day. 22 centuries from now, her name will be gone. The Patty she helped transplant today will still be a Patty, still flooded each spring, still tended by the same hands at the same rhythm. The people who tend it will carry her DNA in roughly 4/5 of their ancestry. The DNA of the Joman in the hills above her in the remaining fifth. The 3 bronze bells in the shrine will be in a glass case in a Fukuoka museum. The Han historians who will write her people's name into the record have not yet been born. She does not know any of this. She is asleep.